All right, joining me at this time is the executive director of an organization called GOProud. Many of you are familiar with it. They are a conservative gay group based in Washington, D.C., and we'll cover a couple issues. Joining me at this time is the executive director, Jimmy LaSalvia. How did you become a conservative? Or a Republican? How do you want to
I always say that I was born gay, and I think I was born conservative, too.
Give us an idea, Jimmy LaSalvia. Where are you on the social issues? When I say you,
first of all, I'm a social conservative. I'm pro-life, pro-gun, pro-school choice, but I happen to believe in a limited role of government, and I think that it comes so many times. My position on a cultural issue is.
But here, I know you're ahead of this.
I don't necessarily think that it's the role of government to teach that. I think moral issues are important, and they should be discussed in our homes, in our families, in our communities.
What about gay marriage? What about gay marriage?
I think moral issues are the last thing that the folks on Capitol Hill should be discussing. I think they've proven themselves not worthy of that. I happen to think that a good school teacher, when they're teaching literature, would mention that Oscar Wilde was, when they're teaching his work, would mention that he was locked in an asylum because he was gay. Or if I'm teaching California history in the 1970s, I would mention and talk about how Harvey Milk was shot. That's what a good teacher would do, because that's important to the context of history. I don't know why the California legislature felt it was their job to mandate it across the board.
Everybody's sitting at home or in their cars saying, "Rick, how come you're not asking about gay marriage?" I'm going to assume where you come down is push it to a state issue and let the states decide.
That's exactly where I come down.
All right, Jimmy LaSalvia, we wanted you to join us. First of all, see how you were doing, and because of your orientation, we wanted to hear you comment on what you thought of the California bill signed into law by Jerry Brown, which takes place in January, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of unanswered questions. What are they going to teach? When does it begin? 6th grade, 1st grade? I mean, a lot of things.
I think that if a high school student is reading Walt Whitman, that they might be interested to know that he happened to be gay, But I'm not sure what.
Why is that interesting?
The scope of curriculum is.
Why is that interesting? When I read Walt Whitman, I never thought about who he was sleeping with.
I think that as a gay person myself, I know that I had never seen or heard of a meaningful contribution to society made by a gay person. When I was growing up, all I saw were images of the San Francisco Pride Festival and this new disease called AIDS.
Okay, Jim LaSalvia, we appreciate you joining us. Now, we'd like you to stay with us. But on the other side of this break, there is a conservative who is an outspoken vocal critic of GOProud. And we welcome you to stay with us. I don't want you to think that.
I'd love to stay on. Who is it?
All right, ladies. I know him? Well, you probably do.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Ryan Sorba, former chairman of Young Americans for Freedom. Ryan Sorba spoke at the CPAC conference in Washington, D.C. earlier this year. He was there to talk about ACORN, but instead was concerned that CPAC was changing its values, changing its philosophy by allowing GOProud into the fold. And Ryan used his time not to talk about ACORN, but talked about the shifting values and his condemnation of CPAC. He was booed off stage, and it's my understanding certain other leading conservative talking heads have since supported his statements. We'll meet Ryan Sorba on the other side of this break, and Jimmy LaSalvia will stay with us on Rick and Morty. Joining me at this time is Ryan Sorba, former chairman of Young Americans for Freedom. He's walked on stage at CPAC and told them not to include GOProud in their fold. He was booed off stage. Since then, other conservative talking heads have come out and supported him. Ryan, welcome to the program.
How you doing today, Rick?
Doing good. Ryan Sorba, I don't know if you heard Jimmy LaSalvia's comments. What's your concern with GOProud?
Well, I'd like to address one of Jimmy LaSalvia's comments, and I really want the audience to focus on this, because the examples that he used in gay history were Walt Whitman and Oscar Wilde, Rick.
Right.
Rick, Oscar Wilde and Walt Whitman were pederasts. They were for teenage adult sex. And I don't know if he knows this or not, or if they were just names that came to the top of his head, but that scares me.
Listen, Ryan, I first want you to know, as you do know, that GOProud is an organization that works on federal issues. I don't even work on this issue. I was asked about it, and I made a comment about it.
A lot of conservatives are concerned that your movement has a lot of historical ties to pederast organizations, and you just mentioned two pederasts
you are
as examples of gay
a liar. We are
heroes in the past.
Now, Ryan, that's
pedophile organization.
Ryan, that's to quote Pulp Fiction. That's quite a bold statement.
That's a lie, Rick. That is an absolute lie.
Now, Ryan, I got to ask you to back that up. You're saying they have several connections?
Yeah, I mean, it's well-known knowledge that they are. I mean, if you, I just Googled a quote by Oscar Wilde because I already knew. I just wanted a quote. He says, "A virtuous abstinence from the joys."
You said my organization
comes most easily to those who have no taste for it. Google it, Rick. They're both pederasts. Man.
All right, so
now this is why people are scared of this initiative, because you've got guys coming on quoting
Rick, I really appreciate
and they're talking about teaching children about homosexuality in school. That scares me, Rick.
Hold on, Ryan.
Welcome your listeners to visit our website.
Jimmy, hold on. Jimmy, hold on.
But this is absolutely outrageous.
Jimmy, hold on.
I won't be brought on to be called a pedophile or associated.
I'm not calling you
Jimmy,
one.
hold on.
Jimmy, I am
All
not
right,
calling
Paul,
you that.
let's put them both on hold. All right. We put both the guys on hold. We don't want Jimmy LaSalvia to be attacked because it's not fair to imply that he's a pedophile as he seems to believe that he's been called. Now let's keep Jimmy on hold. Let's come back. I'm going to speak to Ryan right now, Paul. Let's put Ryan on. You there, Ryan?
Yeah. Hey, Rick.
Okay. Now listen, Ryan. You said the group has ties to pedophilia.
No, I didn't say that GOProud has ties to pedophilia at all. What I said was that Jimmy just brought up Oscar Wilde.
Okay,
and
all right,
Whitman.
we get that. Okay, now let me ask you this. That aside, okay, so let's say he chose two poor examples.
Yeah, I'd say that. I would agree with that statement, and I hope Jimmy will as well.
What is the concern? Is it their views on social issues? Is that why you
with GOProud or with SB48?
Well, is that why you condemn them at CPAC?
Well, what happened was a student got up before me and he thanked CPAC for bringing GOProud to the event, and one of the core issues, one of the reasons that I got involved in politics was to help strengthen the family. The family it's the central unit of civilization. Fathers, mothers, and children. You look at neighborhoods that don't have intact families, and you got higher rates of gangs, early pregnancies, lower socioeconomic income arises out of those neighborhoods for those children. Family is an extremely important thing. And the family is based in reason. Human beings have reason, Rick, and reason sets us apart from the animal, not feelings.
By the way, I need to mention to the audience, in case you're wondering why we haven't brought Jimmy back in. He said he can't continue, so that's why it's just us right now. All right, I get your point. Now, what's happening now? Jimmy LaSalvia has spoken out against this SB 48 calling for gay history taught in schools in California. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, did he give an actual reason that it shouldn't be taught, or did he just say that the government has better things to do? Because, yeah, the government does have better things to do, but he's kind of shucking the question. He's not answering the question of whether or not he's for SB 48. He said he's for teaching children homosexuality in schools, and then he used two pederasts as examples of fine homosexuals to teach children about.
In all fairness, since he's not here, in all fairness, he's not saying let's use these two examples of fine, men.
Right.
You know what I mean? He just happened to, unfortunately, pick two pretty poor examples. Right.
And that's true. And, children, Rick, they're vulnerable. You're not of the age of reason yet. When you're in school, you're learning. That's why you're there. Human beings are born with reason, and reason implies instruction, education, and that takes time. And they're in a very vulnerable state where their feelings are powerful and their reason is weak. And, to put this into the schools and to confuse them about their sexuality when they're young is, in my view,
I agree with you. I agree with you. There's no indication as it start in sixth grade, does it start in first grade. When does this start?
Right, and to bring up the sex life of somebody to a bunch of kids is not part of the lesson plan. Plato, engaged in pederasty. At the end of his life, he condemned it, and he taught in his book, The Laws, a method by which to stamp it out.
All right,
but
Ryan.
Ryan,
we're short on time. Jimmy LaSalvia is back. We've offered him the final word, but that doesn't mean we won't have you guys back again. Ryan, you make a very good point. I want to bring you back again to talk about this SB 48, Ryan, perhaps even tomorrow night. Jimmy LaSalvia, you want the final word here.
Well, I just want to say I'm sorry for hanging up. Ryan doesn't seem to have the ability to talk reasonably about gay conservatives and gay people in the conservative movement. He has a fixation on pedophiles, and I just I did not want to be a part of that discussion. I would like for people to learn about our organization and the things that we do on the federal level, including pushing for concealed carry reciprocity legislation and other pro-Second Amendment.
All right. And Jimmy LaSalvia, even though you get involved in federal issues, you don't like this state law in California.
Yeah, I think I don't like it, and it's a waste of time.
Ryan Sorba, I'll give you 10 seconds.
Thanks, Rick. There's an initiative being placed on the ballot to repeal SB 48. We need everybody out there collecting signatures. We need everybody out there voting for this.
Is there a website, Ryan? Ryan, is there a website?
Not yet. They just filed the paperwork last Friday.
Jimmy LaSalvia, Ryan Sorba, thank you so much.